All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about the top remaining free agents and where they could potentially end up. So we did talk a lot about Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers yesterday, and there's still no. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. There is some movement. There's really no movement on the Aaron Rodgers side of things. But with Russell Wilson, he actually is scheduled to meet with the Cleveland Browns. So that's interesting because they traded for Kenny Pickett. They did a backup quarterback swap with the Eagles. They traded DTR to the Eagles, and they got Kenny Pickett. And right now they have the number 2 overall pick. So I don't know if they're going to take a quarterback. If they end up bringing in Russell Wilson, you have Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett. I mean, are you going to then take a rookie? I don't a rookie quarterback. Well, a rookie quarterback, not a rookie. Obviously, you're taking a rookie, but then is there a scenario where they take best player available? Do they take an Abdul Carter and pair him up with Myles Garrett? Unless the Titans take him, which we still don't really know what the Titans are doing. But still, I thought that was interesting. So he's meeting with the Browns, and then he's also scheduled to meet with the Giants. And I'll just say this with Russell Wilson: if the relationship with the Steelers is not great, because he's kind of looked at as, I guess, the backup plan, because they wanted Fields. Now you're hearing that they want Aaron Rodgers, and Russ is kind of just sitting there like, all right, well, I guess you got. I'm the fall guy, or I'm the backup plan in case those two options don't work. Well, now Fields signed with the Jets, and we're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. So Russell Wilson, I think he is probably going to end up with the Giants, but if he goes to Cleveland, I think that would be interesting too. Russell Wilson in Cleveland. And then, of course, with Rodgers, I don't know. I don't know. We got to wait. We got to continue to wait. But he was released by the Jets. Cooper Kupp officially released by the Rams. That is probably one of the top free agents, is Cooper Kupp. He kind of goes at the top of the list, or near the top, especially when it comes to the wide receivers and who's left. I mean, there's many teams he can end up on. Now, he could still stay out in LA, and he could sign with the Chargers. Maybe the Chargers bring him in. The Chargers actually brought back an old friend. They signed Mike Williams yesterday. And with Keenan Allen still out there, who's another free agent, imagine they brought back Keenan Allen and Mike Williams on cheap deals. I mean, listen, if I'm Justin Herbert, I would be okay with that. I would be okay with that because you have familiarity there. If Mike Williams could stay healthy, he knows Justin Herbert. They have that rapport. I liked that deal for the Chargers. But Keenan Allen, where's he going to go? He said he's either going to go to LA or he's going to go back to the Bears. So I think he's either going to the Chargers or he's going back to the Bears, which, I mean, with the Bears, what they're doing, and they got Ben Johnson now, I'd maybe go back and play with them. But, hey, listen, if Jim Harbaugh says, hey, if you want to come in at this price, and Keenan Allen's like, you know what, I want to reunite with Herbert. You have Herbert. I mean, well, yeah, you got Herbert throwing to McConkey, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams. Definitely an upgrade, getting some old friends back. We have Fantasy Icon in the chat. He says, will Cup stay healthy, though? How much does Cup get for how long? I mean, I would think like the years won't be. I mean, it could be maybe a 2-year deal or something, maybe 2 or 3. Money wise, I really couldn't tell you. I mean, he's not going to be making. It's going to be affordable for the team, And will he stay healthy? Look, that's something that's been a problem for him the last few years, is staying healthy. Now, I don't think it's him just suffering these non-contact injuries. Like he's pulling something. Like, 2023, yes, but last year he got hurt because of how he was tackled against the Cardinals. You know, 2 for $25 million, maybe, but I think Cup can stay healthy. I definitely think he can. But I think the Chargers could be a good spot for him. I know the Cowboys were floated around, but then I don't know. I saw something that said they're not in on Cup, and then there's something that says they could be in on Cup. But I would. He wants to go to a contender, I would imagine. So maybe he wants to stay out on the West Coast. Like I said, you go to the Chargers, but I saw the Vikings. Maybe I brought that up yesterday. Imagine him, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. I mean, that would, if JJ McCarthy's a starter, and you also have TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones, and you improve the offensive line. I mean, if JJ McCarthy can't succeed with that offense, then I don't know what to tell you. But maybe he goes there. There's a lot of teams that could be a fit for him. The Patriots desperately need wide receiver help, but the Patriots are not necessarily a contender. Now, I definitely do think with the moves that they've made, I think they are going to be a better team, but they have to they got to upgrade that offense. Fantasy also says I think Seattle I think was also mentioned too. I mean, they just traded DK Metcalf. There's no Tyler Lockett anymore. I mean, you need another receiver besides Jackson Smith and Jigba, to help out Darnold. So if you bring in Cooper Kupp, I don't think that'd be a bad move. You have some of the other quarterbacks that are still available along with Rodgers and Wilson. You got Jameis Winston, which honestly, if I'm a Giant fan, which I am, if you don't get Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers for some reason, I'd bring in Jameis Winston. Why not? Why not? Make things fun again. A-Rod to Kupp. Yeah, I mean, if Kupp ended up going to the Steelers, Rodgers goes there, that could work. You have DK Metcalf and George Pickens, the 50-50 guys, the 50-50 ball guys, and then you got Kupp over the middle. Or Pat Fryermuth. You take that. But yeah, Jameis Winston, that would be my next option if it's not Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. But supposedly the Giants would want Flacco, which, sorry. If the Giants were a contender and let's say they had a star quarterback that went down and Flacco was the backup, that'd be different. But, yeah, no, I don't know if I want to have January Joe on the Giants. You were with the Jets. It didn't work out for you. Don't come to the Giants. But it's just crazy how that could be the scenario where the Giants don't end up with Rodgers or Wilson and they end up with Joe Flacco instead. And fantasy also agrees. Winston in New York would be gold. I would take it. It would make things exciting. Although he would throw a lot of interceptions, which would make you want to pull every strand of hair out of your head. But still, I would take that. Some of the running backs that are still available, you got J.K. Dobbins, who of course, was a comeback player of the year candidate with the Chargers. It's not going to be the Chargers he's going to go back to because they signed Najee Harris, but I don't know where he could end up. I mean, I feel like he could be a complement to another running back. I know I just talked about the Giants. If they brought him in and paired him up with Tyrone Tracy, I don't think that would be that bad. I'm trying to think of who else could maybe bring him in. Maybe the Browns. Fantasy Icon has now given us a follow. We appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams, and then you got Nick Chubb as well. What's Nick Chubb's market? I feel like somebody is going to sign him. I know when I was watching the free agent frenzy on NFL Network, they talked about the Saints really don't have another running back now besides Kamara. I mean, they have Kendre Miller, but they did release Jamal Williams. Maybe they want to pair someone up with Kamara. It's possible. Kareem Hunt's also a free agent. Gus Edwards, Alexander Madison, Cam Akers, Travis Homer. Kyle Juszczyk will definitely get picked up. I saw something that said maybe the Chargers could be interested. I feel like that's definitely a Jim Harbaugh signing, and he did play with the Ravens, Juszczyk, so he was with the Harbaugh already. So, Chargers brought him in. He's a guy that, plays a unique position. I guess if you want to call the fullback position unique. But he can make plays. He could definitely make plays. If you put in some plays for him, he can catch the ball. So I think he could be someone that could help out a team. And then you also got Miles Sanders as well out there. The Panthers released him. They actually brought in Rico Dowdle So Dowdle goes to the Panthers. So it's going to be Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, and then Jonathan Brooks, of course, towards ACL again. So he's really not going to be a factor next season until I guess late in the year, if at all. And then some of the wide receivers we talked about: Kupp and Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett. I think he goes back to well, not go back, but he reunites with Pete Carroll. I think that's what's going to happen because the Raiders need wide receiver help. Obviously, he's not really a needle mover, but still a veteran guy that you could bring in. I think that makes sense. Deontay Johnson is also out there. I mean, he got passed around last year. With the Panthers. Then he was with who was he with first? I think he was with the Ravens, and then he was with the Texans. Yeah, so he was all over the place. So we'll see if any team picks him up. Amari Cooper, that's interesting. Could the Cowboys maybe bring back Amari Cooper? I could see that on a cheap deal, maybe opposite of CeeDee Lamb. Listen, they brought back Zeke for 1 year, so maybe they bring back Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper could definitely still play, and I'm curious to see where Stephon Diggs ends up. Somebody's going to sign him, right? Where's Diggs going? That is a good question, fantasy icon. I don't know. I don't really know. The Green Bay Packers, I think, were a team coming in that I think they need wide receiver help. They need a upgrade at that position because none of the guys really took on that number one role last year. So, maybe they sign one of these guys on a cheap deal. And then they kind of go through some of the other positions as well. So Tyler Conklin's out there. Team needs a tight end. Offensive tackles, you got Cam Robinson, Tyron Smith, and Jarek Wills. We'll see where they could potentially end up. Mekhi Becton, who was productive when the Eagles moved him in to the interior on the offensive line. You got him out there. Tevin Jenkins from the Bears. Brandon Sheriff from the Jaguars. Will Hernandez, Shaq Mason. Will Hernandez was a former Giant. Brandon Sheriff, that was a guy I remember a lot of Giant fans wanted him. So it would be kind of funny if it went full circle and the Giants brought him in because they do need an interior offensive lineman. And then edge rushers, you got Von Miller out there, Zadarius Smith, Azeez Ojulari, Dante Fowler, Matthew Judon, Dennis Gardick, and Josh Uche. Calais Campbell, Eric Hendricks, who was with the Cowboys, Rasul Douglas. A team's definitely going to pick him up. Asante Samuel Jr., Mike Hilton, Stephon Gilmore. Those are your corners that are available. And then for safeties, you got Justin Simmons, Julian Blackmon. So, we'll see what happens. But I think the biggest, guys that are out there are, the quarterbacks, obviously. And actually, I do have some breaking news. Speaking of quarterbacks. All right, so you ready? You ready for this? The Pittsburgh Steelers have signed a quarterback. They have signed Mason Rudolph. They signed him back a 2-year, $8 million deal. Now, there were some rumors out there that, or not rumors, but reports out there that the Steelers could bring him back as a backup. But, and also with the potential to actually start. Well, they bring him back. So does that mean that they are out on the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes? I don't know. But now their quarterback room consists of Mason Rudolph and Kyle Allen. So, yeah. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think, though. Where do you think some of these where do you think these top free agents could go? So we just saw Mason Rudolph signed with the Steelers. But does that mean that they're out on Aaron Rodgers? Not necessarily. But if Mason Rudolph is a starter for the Steelers next year, that's not good. So we are going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we will talk some baseball. We'll talk about Dave Roberts receiving a contract extension from the Dodgers. So we'll shift over to baseball for a bit. Fantasy in the chat says to mentor Rudolph. I really don't think at this point Mason Rudolph needs mentoring. Mason Rudolph is a backup. That's what he is. That can win you some games. Because look what he did for the Steelers down the stretch in 2023. He won 3 straight games. They made the playoffs and they lost to the Bills. So, but yeah, we'll talk some baseball when we come back. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.